Have you ever noticed the strange, quiet heaviness that can accompany a birthday? A day that is meant for celebration, meant for joy, often becomes a hidden source of panic. You look at the calendar, you look in the mirror, and a sudden, quiet wave of anxiety crashes over your spirit. Another year has passed. Time is slipping through your fingers like dry sand, and an overwhelming familiar thought echoes in your mind. I am running out of time, and I am not where I am supposed to be. You feel a tightening in your chest. The turning of an age feels less like a beautiful milestone and more like a harsh deadline you have somehow missed. You replay the years that have gone by, agonizing over choices made or risks avoided. You look around at a world that seems obsessed with youth, early achievement, and arriving at a perfect destination. You see people who seem to have gathered all the pieces of their puzzle, while yours are still scattered on the floor. The panic sets in deep. You feel terribly, irreversibly behind. You feel as though life is a fast-moving train you are failing to catch. But what if the thing you are desperately trying to measure yourself against does not actually exist? Buddhist wisdom teaches us that much of our deep-seated suffering comes not from our actual, lived reality, but from the illusions we attach to it. One of the most deeply ingrained and painful illusions we carry is the concept of a universal timeline. We cling to a rigid, artificial schedule for when we should succeed, when we should settle, or when we should finally be happy. In Buddhist thought, this attachment to a fabricated future robs us entirely of the present. We suffer because we demand that life matches the picture in our heads, instead of accepting the beautiful, complex reality of what is. Think of a vast river flowing toward the ocean. The river does not rush to prove its worth. Sometimes it moves quickly over steep, rocky rapids. Other times it pools in deep, quiet, still waters that seem completely motionless. The water in the calm pools is not behind the water rushing over the falls. It is simply experiencing a different part of the landscape. It is deepening. If the river spent all its energy trying to force the calm waters to race, it would only create turbulence. The river trusts its own course. It knows that every drop, moving at its own pace, eventually reaches the boundless sea. Yet, in our modern world, we refuse to trust our own flow. We panic on our birthdays because we judge our entire existence by milestones dictated by a frantic, superficial society. A successful career by 30, a perfect relationship by 35, unshakable security by 40. When we do not meet these arbitrary, invisible marks, the mind turns against us. We let the natural, inevitable passing of time become a weapon we use to punish ourselves. Ask yourself in this very moment, whose timeline are you measuring your life against? Who told you that you were supposed to have it all figured out by this exact age? Is this thought bringing you peace, or is it feeding your fear? What if the panic you feel today is not a sign that you are failing, but simply a sign that you are holding onto a map that was never meant for your unique journey? Pause. Breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. For just this moment, let the immense weight of that imaginary timeline drop from your shoulders. Observe the anxiety of aging without making it your absolute truth. You are not a project behind schedule. You are not a machine failing to produce. You are a living, breathing being in the sacred process of unfolding. Because peace is not found in frantically catching up to where you think you should be. Peace is found when you stop running a race that does not exist. But recognizing this illusion is only the first step, because beneath this feeling of being behind is a heavy, invisible weight we have carried for years. And this is where the next truth begins. What if the heaviness you feel today is not the weight of your actual life, but the crushing burden of an invisible timeline? Here is the truth few people want to face. We spend our entire lives collecting expectations created by others, stacking them up like heavy stones in a backpack. We carry this burden silently, year after year. You are not tired because you are aging. You are exhausted because you have been carrying the demands of a world that does not know your soul. You worry that if you have not achieved certain things by this specific age, you have failed the test of life. The fear whispers that you have wasted precious time. You look at the year ahead not as an open field of possibility, but as a narrow corridor with a rapidly closing door. In Buddhist thought, one of the deepest lessons is the danger of clinging to concepts. We attach ourselves to a rigid, fabricated script of how our lives must unfold. We believe that if we follow this script perfectly, we will find permanent security and happiness. But this attachment is the very root of our suffering. When life naturally deviates from the script, when a relationship ends, when a career stalls, when a dream takes far longer to build, we do not just feel disappointment. We feel a deep, existential panic. We suffer because we demand that life obey a schedule it never agreed to. Imagine you are walking through a dense, beautiful forest, but you are staring intensely at a map drawn by someone who has never actually visited this land. The map tells you that by sunset, you must reach a great, towering mountain, but as the sun begins to lower, you find yourself standing beside a quiet, hidden lake. If you keep staring at the map, you will feel terrified. You will feel lost. You will curse your feet for walking too slowly. But if you put the map down and finally look up, you will see the water reflecting the peaceful evening sky. You will realize you are not lost at all. You are exactly where you need to be. You simply arrived at a destination the map did not know existed. So many of us navigate modern life staring at a false map. We measure our ultimate worth by the age we acquire a house, the year we settle down, or the title we hold, before we turn 30, 40, or 50. When the birthday arrives and reality does not match the map, the panic sets in. We feel like failures for standing by the silent lake instead of conquering the mountain. We compare our quiet, unfolding reality to the loud, curated lives of others on social media, completely forgetting that they, too, are carrying heavy stones. Think about your own life. What arbitrary expectations are you still holding on to? What are you afraid will happen if you finally admit that you cannot control the timing of your life? What if the timeline you are punishing yourself with was never meant for you in the first place? Pause, breathe, acknowledge the invisible timeline in your mind, and then gently set it down. You do not have to carry it into this new year of your life. Let the feeling of being behind rise and watch it drift away like a cloud passing over an open sky. You do not need to force the door open. You are not running out of time. You are simply stepping out of the illusion that time was ever meant to be controlled. But putting down the map is only part of the journey, because to truly find peace with the passing years, we must make peace with the very nature of change itself. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The wisdom of impermanence. What if the very change you are so desperately fighting is the only thing that can set you free? Here is a truth that goes against everything we are taught. We fear getting older because it signifies change. We notice the subtle shifting of our bodies, the closing of certain doors, the fading of our youth, and we instantly contract in fear. We want to freeze time. We try to hold on to older, familiar versions of ourselves, terrified that moving forward means losing our essence. The panic you feel on your birthday is often not a fear of the future at all. It is grief. It is the deep, unspoken grief over what is passing away and the exhausting attempt to keep everything exactly the same. Buddhism reminds us of the profound and beautiful truth of impermanence. Everything changes, nothing stays, and nothing was ever meant to stay. Buddhist wisdom teaches that our deepest suffering arises when we try to make permanent what is naturally fleeting. When we cling to youth, to past moments, to an unchanging identity, we are fighting the fundamental rhythm of existence. Change is not a cruel thief stealing your time. It is the very fabric of life. Pain comes from the resistance to this flow. Peace comes from surrender. Imagine a grand, ancient tree standing quietly in a forest. When the air turns cold and autumn arrives, the tree does not cling desperately to its changing leaves. It does not panic as the wind strips its branches bare. It does not view the falling leaves as a failure or a loss of time. The tree simply allows the season to pass through it. It knows that holding on to dead leaves will only block the new life of spring. It sheds what was, trusting completely that its roots are growing deeper into the dark earth, anchoring it for whatever weather comes next. We struggle deeply to do what the tree does so naturally. In our daily lives, we fight the changing seasons of our identity. We stare at old photographs and feel a heavy sense of loss for the person we used to be. We try to hold on to relationships that have naturally run their course. We stay in spaces that no longer fit us, simply because the old shape is familiar. We let the fear of aging convince us that our best, most vibrant chapters are permanently behind us. We exhaust ourselves trying to tape the fallen leaves back onto our branches, instead of realizing that releasing the old is the only way to make room for the new. Think about your own life. What old version of yourself are you still desperately trying to keep alive? What falling leaves are you tightly clutching in your hands? What are you afraid will happen if you finally let them drop? Pause, breathe, feel the resistance inside your chest, and consciously loosen your grip. Observe the fear of changing without following it. Let the season change. Stop trying to hold the wind, because peace is not found in stopping the clock. Peace is found when you stop fighting the natural flow of time and allow yourself to evolve. But accepting impermanence is only part of the awakening, because growing older is not a process of losing yourself. It is a process of becoming more real. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. Age as a deepening, not a depletion. What if growing older is not a process of losing yourself, but the quiet, beautiful process of finally meeting yourself? Here is a painful truth about the world we live in. We are taught to view aging as a tragic subtraction. We are conditioned to believe that with every passing year, we are losing something important. We lose our youth. We lose our relentless energy. We lose the limitless, blank canvas of potential we believed we had at 20. When your birthday arrives, the panic sets in because you view your life as a dwindling resource. You see another year gone, and you feel depleted. You look in the mirror and search for signs of fading, terrified that as you grow older, you are slowly becoming invisible, irrelevant, and less valuable. But Buddhist wisdom offers a profoundly different lens. In Buddhist thought, the true essence of who you are, your conscious awareness, your capacity for compassion, your inner stillness does not age, it does not decay. What ages is simply the physical vessel and the fragile ego. The ego panics because it relies heavily on external validation, on being noticed, on looking a certain way, and on constantly achieving worldly things. But as these superficial layers naturally begin to thin over time, something miraculous happens. You do not empty out, you deepen. Aging is not the depletion of your worth. It is the steady, quiet deepening of your spirit. Think of a shallow, fast-moving mountain stream compared to a deep, ancient lake. The stream is loud. It splashes over rocks, catching the bright sunlight, demanding to be seen by everyone who passes. It is full of frantic, chaotic energy, but it is also easily disrupted. A single thrown stone or fallen branch can agitate its entire flow. This is often what youth feels like, but as time passes, the water flows down into a vast, deep basin. The surface becomes incredibly calm. The loud, rushing noise fades into silence. It may not splash and sparkle in the same frantic way, but its depth is staggering. Because it is so deeply settled, it becomes a perfect, still lake reflecting the moon. A passing storm might ruffle the surface, but the profound depths below remain entirely undisturbed. So many of us are afraid of becoming the deep lake. In our careers, in our relationships, and in our daily interactions, we exhaust ourselves trying to remain the loud, splashing stream. We chase external approval. We try to prove we are still relevant and useful. We feel a deep, agonizing sting when we are ignored by a society that praises only the new and the loud. We let the panic of aging convince us that our growing quietness is a failure, completely missing the immense strength in our own deepening stillness. We forget that the most powerful things in nature do not shout. Think about your own life. Are you mourning the loss of the loud, chaotic energy of your past? What if the things you think you are losing, the desperate need to be seen, the exhausting drive to prove yourself, are actually making space for a profound, unshakable peace? Pause. Breathe. Let the frantic need to stay the same slip quietly from your hands. Allow yourself to drop beneath the turbulent surface of your worries. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You are not fading away. You are rooting deeper into the truth of who you are, because true peace does not come from holding on to the shallow waters. It comes from trusting the depths. But to truly embrace this beautiful deepening, we must first stop begging the outside world to validate our worth. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. Releasing the need to perform for society. What if the deep exhaustion you feel on your birthday is not from living your life, but from constantly acting in a play you never auditioned for? Here is the truth few people want to face. From the moment we are young, we are handed a script by society. We are told that a worthy life is a highly visible life. We are taught to measure our value by our visible achievements, our material status, and how much admiration we can gather from others. So, we spend years building a persona. We strive for the right job, the right relationship, and the right image, desperately hoping for the world to applaud. When a birthday arrives, we treat it like a strict annual performance review. We look out at the audience, and if the applause is not loud enough, or if our achievements do not match the societal script, a cold panic sets in. We feel an overwhelming sense of failure, not because our lives are truly empty, but because we fear we are not enough for everyone else. Buddhism reminds us that this endless craving for external approval is a profound source of suffering. In Buddhist thought, the ego is a fragile, demanding construct, constantly hungry for validation and terrified of being ignored. When we attach our inner peace to the opinions of the outside world, we hand over the keys to our own happiness. We become prisoners to shifting trends and fleeting judgments. True liberation, the wisdom teaches, is realizing that the stage is an illusion. Non-attachment means letting go of the need to be perceived a certain way. You do not have to perform. You do not have to prove your worth to a world that is too busy looking at its own reflection. Imagine a beautiful, vibrant bird sitting inside a small, ornate cage in a busy city square. Every day, the bird sings as loudly as it can, exhausting its voice, desperately trying to impress the people walking by. It believes its entire existence depends on how well it entertains the crowd. But there is a quiet truth the bird has not noticed. The door to the cage has never been locked. It has always been wide open. The bird is not trapped by iron bars. It is trapped by its own exhausting need to be praised. If the bird simply stopped performing, it could hop to the threshold, spread its wings, and fly out into the infinite, silent sky. In our modern lives, we are that exhausted bird. We trap ourselves in the cages of social media, constant comparison, and the relentless pressure to succeed. We curate our milestones, hoping the world will validate our choices. We stay in careers that drain our souls just to keep a title that sounds impressive. We let the fear of what our family or peers think dictate how we spend our precious time. And on our birthdays, we feel the agonizing weight of that cage, completely forgetting that the door is already open. Think about your own life. Who are you still trying to impress? Whose invisible expectations are dictating your heavy thoughts today? What are you afraid will happen if you let go of the need to be admired? If absolutely no one was watching your life, if there was no one left to applaud or criticize, how would you live this next year differently? Pause, breathe, observe the exhausting urge to prove yourself without following it. Do not fight the cage. Simply notice that it is already unlatched. Step out of the need to perform, because true freedom is not found in the applause of the crowd. It is found in the quiet, unshakable self-respect of your own heart. But stepping off the stage requires us to stop worrying about the audience and start living in the only place life actually happens. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The beauty of the present moment. What if the life you are so afraid of losing is slipping away, precisely because you are not actually here to live it? Here is a painful truth about our panic over aging. We spend our birthdays standing in the present, but our minds are violently torn between two impossible places. We are either looking backward, agonizing over the years that have closed, or we are looking frantically forward, gripped by anxiety over the time we have left. We worry about what will happen next year, in 5 years, in 10. We are perpetually waiting for the right moment, waiting for a sense of security, waiting to feel like we have finally arrived. In this constant mental time travel, the actual living moment is completely ignored. We miss the very life we are so terrified of running out of. When the birthday arrives, it acts as a harsh mirror, reflecting how rarely we are actually present. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the present moment is the only place where life actually exists. The past is a memory, the future is an illusion. When we constantly pull our awareness away from the present, we create a deep, exhausting cycle of suffering. Mindfulness is not about fixing the past or controlling the future. It is about returning your profound attention to the only breath you actually have. By learning to anchor ourselves in the now, the panic of time slipping away begins to dissolve. Time is no longer a deadline to beat. It becomes a quiet, spacious room in which to be awake. Imagine a solitary candle burning steadily in a quiet, dark room. The flame does not worry about the wax that has already melted away into the darkness. It does not panic about how much wick is left for tomorrow. If the flame spent its energy agonizing over the past or fearing the future, it would flicker and dance erratically, creating terrible shadows of fear on the walls. Instead, the flame simply burns, giving its full, brilliant light to the exact moment it is in. It is completely consumed by the simple, beautiful act of shining right now. In our daily lives, we are like a frantically flickering flame. We sit at the table with people we love, but our minds are stressing over tomorrow's obligations. We wake up on our birthday, a day meant for celebration, but our hearts are heavy with the fear of getting older. We scroll endlessly on our screens, numbing ourselves, waiting for some imaginary future moment when we will finally feel settled. We spend our most precious currency, our attention, on things that do not exist. We miss the warmth of the morning, the quiet presence of a friend, and the simple miracle of drawing a breath, because we are trapped in the labyrinth of our own overthinking. Hurrying does not give us more time. It only makes the present disappear faster. Think about your own life. Where is your mind right now? Are you truly inhabiting this current chapter of your life, or are you just rushing through it to get somewhere else? What would happen if you stopped waiting for the perfect future and finally arrived in the life you have today? Pause, breathe, feel the simple rise and fall of your chest. Draw your attention away from tomorrow and let it rest gently in this exact second. Let the feeling of rush completely leave your body, because peace is not found by figuring out the rest of your life. Peace is found by fully living this one solitary breath. But returning to the present is often interrupted by the ghosts of what could have been, and this is where the next truth begins. 7. Grieving the unlived lives. What if the heavy sorrow you feel on your birthday is not for the life you have, but for the ghosts of the lives you never lived? Here is a profound truth about getting older. When we are young, our future feels like an endless hallway of open doors. We believe we can be anything, do anything, go anywhere. But as the years pass, we make choices. We choose a path, a place, a way of being. And with every choice we make, other doors quietly close. The panic that arrives with another birthday is often a hidden, unresolved grief. We are mourning the unlived lives. We look back at the crossroads of our past, the risk we did not take, the word we did not say, the dream we traded for safety, and we wonder, what if? We let the phantom of a perfect, unlived existence haunt the reality of the life we actually have. Buddhism teaches us that our deepest suffering arises when we attach our minds to illusions. And there is no greater illusion than a past that never happened. In Buddhist thought, clinging to what could have been is a direct rejection of what is. The unlived life does not exist anywhere except in the fragile memories of your own mind. It has no weight, no substance, no breath. Yet, we allow this empty ghost to steal our joy. We allow it to make us feel inadequate and convince us that we have somehow taken a wrong turn. True acceptance means looking at the reality in front of you and bowing to it, completely letting go of the phantom paths. Imagine a beautiful, dormant seed resting in the dark earth. When it is still a seed, it contains the potential to grow in a million different directions. Its branches could reach east or west. It could grow incredibly tall or spread out wide along the ground. But as it pushes through the soil and meets the light, it must take one specific form. It becomes one singular tree. If the tree spent its entire existence mourning the phantom branches, it never grew, it would never feel the warmth of the sun on the leaves it actually possesses. It would wither in sorrow over an illusion. The tree is beautiful precisely because it took a shape. The closing of infinite potential was necessary for it to become real. In our daily lives, we constantly refuse to accept our own shape. We sit in a quiet, stable life, but our minds wander to the vibrant city we never moved to. We reach an age where our youth naturally settles, and we compare our current selves to the wildly successful person we thought we would be. We let the illusion of the perfect choice completely ruin the beauty of the choice we actually made. We treat our birthdays as cruel reminders of every door that is now locked, entirely forgetting that walking through a single door is the only way to actually experience the world. Think about your own life. What unlived version of yourself are you still secretly mourning? What ghost are you comparing your actual, breathing life to? What if you finally gave yourself permission to stop grieving the paths you did not take? Pause, breathe, gently observe the thought of what if without letting it take root in your mind. Acknowledge the closed doors and consciously turn away from them. You cannot live in a ghost story. Return your heart to the room you are standing in, because true peace is not keeping every possibility open forever. Peace is letting go of the ghost and fully inhabiting the reality you have grown into. But to truly embrace the life you have, you must learn to stop rushing your own evolution. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Trusting the pace of your own journey. What if the terrible feeling that you are falling behind is simply proof that you have forgotten how to walk your own path? Here is a painful reality we all face. We are conditioned to treat life as a desperate race. We look left and right, constantly checking the speed of everyone around us. We see friends celebrating massive milestones, people younger than us achieving our deepest dreams, and the world seemingly rushing forward while we stand entirely still. When your birthday arrives, it feels like a heavy gong sounding, warning you that time is running out. You feel a frantic, tightening need to sprint, to force things to happen, to catch up before it is too late. You suffer because you believe that if you have not arrived yet, you never will. Buddhist wisdom offers a profound remedy to this exhaustion, the deep surrender to the natural unfolding of things. In Buddhist thought, everything has its own inherent nature and its own perfect time. A profound cause of our suffering is our relentless desire to force the universe to move at the speed of our anxiety. We try to violently pull the future into the present, but non-attachment means letting go of the arrogant belief that you know exactly when and how your life is supposed to bloom. True peace is found when you stop trying to push the river and finally learn to trust the current. Imagine a beautiful, pristine lotus flower resting quietly beneath the surface of a murky, dark pond. For a long time, the lotus remains completely submerged in the mud. To an observer standing on the shore, it might look as though nothing is happening. It might look as though the lotus is simply stuck, failing to grow. But beneath the dark water, the plant is doing exactly what it must do. It is slowly gathering strength in the dark. If you were to reach into the water and forcefully pull the lotus upward, trying to make it break the surface before it is ready, you would not help it bloom. You would snap its stem. You would destroy the very flower you were trying to hurry. In our modern lives, we are constantly trying to pull our own stems. We feel the panic of aging, so we rush into relationships that are not right for us, just to avoid being alone. We force career changes out of desperation rather than inspiration. We try to accelerate our healing, angry that we are still grieving a loss we think we should be over by now. We treat our own lives with violence, yanking at the roots, demanding that we bloom exactly when society tells us we should. We forget that the mud is not a punishment. The quiet, unseen waiting is a necessary part of the becoming. Think about your own life. Where are you forcefully pulling at your own stem? What relationship, what goal, or what internal healing are you trying to rush out of pure anxiety? What would happen if you simply allowed yourself to be exactly where you are, trusting that you are still growing even in the dark? Pause. Breathe. Notice the desperate urge to hurry and gently release it. Stop trying to drag your future into today. Do your part, then release the outcome. Let the murky water settle, because peace is not found by arriving at the destination faster than everyone else. Peace is found by honoring the exact step you are currently on. But trusting your own pace is only possible when you finally make peace with the road ahead. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Welcoming the year ahead with open hands. Think back to that quiet, heavy feeling we started with. The moment you look in the mirror on your birthday, stare at the subtle changes in your face, and feel that sudden, familiar wave of panic crashing over your spirit. For so many years, you have treated this beautiful day not as a celebration of your survival, but as a harsh, unforgiving deadline. You have looked at the passing of time as a cruel thief, stealing your youth, your endless potential, and your fundamental worth. You have exhausted your spirit trying to sprint alongside a society that demands constant, loud, visible achievement. You have carried the heavy, crushing stones of invisible timelines and unlived lives. But what if, on this birthday, you finally decided to simply stop running? Buddhist wisdom gently invites us to put down the burdens we were never meant to carry. The deepest lesson of non-attachment is realizing that you do not need to measure your beautifully unfolding journey against a rigid, fabricated map. You do not need to perform for a world that is completely absorbed in its own reflection. You do not need to violently force the river of your life to flow faster than its natural current. Growing older is not a tragic process of emptying out. It is not a depletion. It is a profound, beautiful deepening. As the loud, chaotic, rushing waters of your youth naturally begin to settle, you are not disappearing into the background. You are finally becoming the still, quiet lake. You are making space to reflect the quiet light. Imagine stepping out of that small, open cage of endless expectations. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, silent field as the sun begins to rise on your new year. The sky is endless, the air is calm. You do not have to drag the ghosts of your past into this new space. You do not have to mourn the phantom branches you never grew. You only have to stand in the quiet, magnificent reality of the tree you have actually become. Your roots have grown deep into the dark earth. Your trunk has weathered incredible storms. The seasons of your life will continue to change, but you no longer have to fight the autumn wind. You can simply let the dead leaves fall, completely trusting that your true essence, your awareness, your deep capacity for love, your inner peace remains perfectly untouched by the hands of time. Look at the year ahead of you not as a narrow, closing corridor, but as a wide-open sanctuary you are slowly walking into. You have survived every heartbreak. You have navigated the turbulent waters. You have gathered a quiet, powerful wisdom that can only be earned through the sheer grace of living. Do not let the illusion of being behind steal the absolute miracle that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of experiencing the dawn. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. The dark mud has done its quiet work, and you are unfolding in your own perfect season. Pause, breathe, place your hand over your heart, and feel the steady, rhythmic beat beneath your chest. That beat is not a ticking clock counting down your remaining time. It is a steady drum, patiently guiding your continued awakening. Give yourself the profound gift of letting go. Give yourself permission to age softly, deeply, and beautifully. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. Let life meet you where you are.